Our first question is going to come from Scott Wright from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Scott.
Coach, how would you say the I guess the intensity, for lack of a better word, of practice has been, and the focus of the guys throughout all of this?
We've had really good practices, had a good practice last night, and they seemed really focused and excited about getting back to work.
I know you'd said you'd plan to stick to your regular off-week schedule. Did you do that, and did you work in anything, any kind of extra scrimmages or anything like that to try to keep the guys kind of on point?
We stayed with the same routine that we've had, give them a break over the weekend and start back up on Tuesday.
Health-wise, you guys in good shape right now?
Seem to be in good shape. Holding our breath.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Our next question is going to come from Chris Becker from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Chris.
Coach, how you doing today?
Good.
So, a lot of the young coaches have come into the game in recent years, in the Big 12 especially, like Matt Campbell did a few years ago. What have you seen from him as a coach, and then what's your relationship like with him off the field and on the field?
Well, I don't have a relationship with any coaches. We all work at the same time, and so I don't ever see Matt except for the day that I play him, unless I'm at Big 12 meetings. I think he's a good football coach and done a really nice job at Iowa State.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Our next question comes from Garen Emig from the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Garen.
Michael, was going to ask you in regard to the positive tests of some of the head coaches in the game, Les in Lawrence and Saban and Dan Mullen over the weekend. How concerned are you with your staff's health at a time like this? We talk about your players all the time, but what about staff?
You talking about catching the virus?
Yes, sir.
Well, I just think it's a matter of time. I'll be honest with you. I've said this every week. I'm shocked that I haven't got it yet, but I've been fortunate up to this point, and I think our staff is the same way. Now we have some coaches that would be in maybe a little more of the at-risk category in somebody's opinion. I guess it depends on who you listen to. Those guys stay away a little more and sometimes aren't involved in activities with groups of people.
Is that based on age or just health situations that they may make them more susceptible? Is that how that's determined?
I think they make their own decision. I don't get involved in any of that. I don't know what credibility anybody has with the virus anymore based on opinion. So all I do is do my job, and then guys that are concerned because of age or maybe a previous health condition, they're free to stay away from things that they have concerns as an individual.
Okay. One more quick follow-up. If you had to miss a game, would Casey be the head coach at the stadium that day?
If I had to miss a game.
Yeah,
well, Casey's in the box, so I would have to put some thought into that. I am not a big fan of a play caller being on the field. I never have been. So I would have to think that through based on his location. If the box nor the field mattered, then yes, he would call the shots.
Okay, appreciate it.
Our next question comes from Ryan Breeden from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Mike. So it's been about a month now or so since Spencer got hurt. So would you say that he's probably around 100% at this point?
I think he's doing good. Yeah, he's been practicing well for the last couple weeks.
Okay, so then that leads me into my next question. What do you do then going forward when you have two guys who are pretty formidable to play quarterback?
Well, one, you're happy. You're glad you've got two guys. I've been without anybody at times, so we're glad we got two guys, and we just continue on with what we've done. We've split the reps for a number of weeks now, so we just continue to move forward in that fashion, and we might even play both guys. It just depends on where we're at.
I was going to say, would you consider doing something like you did in 2015 with Mason and JW? But you kind of just answered my question for you. So at this time, do you have one that you would pick to start over the other?
If I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, thanks, Coach.
Sure.
Our next question comes from Robert Allen from Triple Play Sports Radio. Go ahead, Robert.
I don't think I'm going to ask about the quarterback.
Well, that was a good try. At least I was honest.
You did
We
a
have-
nice job.
We have two healthy players, and now Bullock's healthy. So, I mean, we're in pretty good shape at that spot.
All right, let's talk. I asked you a bunch of questions about Iowa State offensively last week, so I'm going to go to the defensive side. They kind of got lucky in a weird way with Jaquan Bailey last year. He missed the entire season. He comes back this year and gives them an elite pass rusher. And then you look at every other level. They've got good linebackers. They've got some really talented safeties. This is a pretty good defensive unit. Maybe the weakness is they're young at the corner position, but how do you look at their defense?
They're the same, Robert. They play back and they've adjusted. They're not playing as much 4 techniques. They're playing more 5 techniques now to try to increase their ability to rush the quarterback on non-passing downs. They look a little bit more like what Baylor was running last year with some of the coverage stuff and the 5 techniques. But just an outsider looking in, their thought process is to stay back, not give up big plays. You have to rush the football against them. If you can't rush the football with the way their safeties and Rover and all them are sitting way back there, you can be in for a long day.
So has everybody kind of adopted and took on a piece of John Heacock's rush 3, drop 8 system? They've kind of changed a little bit just to stay different because, it does make it easier when everybody runs a little bit of your defense and people see it so much.
They're this year they're going to play their base, which I'm guessing is their rush 3, 5 under 3 deep, and then there's times they'll blitz you. They'll bring 5 or 6 people and play the same zone behind it and just leave a zone vacant to see if the quarterback can find it. Probably because of simplicity, easier to coach would be my guess. Again, I'm just an offensive guy looking in from so you're either playing soft zone or coming after you.
You feel pretty good right now, especially after the Kansas game. Things got ramped up. How your offense can stress defenses, because that's pretty important.
I think we're at our best when we play fast and we can rush the football and use play action pass. But that's the way that I felt for 12 years. We're getting a little better at that. I think musical chairs is an issue for us on the offensive line that we've eliminated, fortunately, over the last few weeks. Makes a big difference. And then we have skill players that can make plays. You've got to get the ball to those guys, let them score touchdowns.
Thanks, Coach.
Our next question comes from Jenny Carlson from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jenny.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So looking at the last few years of games between you guys and Iowa State, close seems to be the way of this series. Even if one team seemed to be better or whatever, it just seemed like this has been a single digit sort of series of late. And now this year you guys seem maybe as close as competitive wise as ever. What do you sort of attribute the close fits with Iowa State to? Because you guys are stylistically not exactly mirrors of each other.
I'm not sure. There's a lot of parity. This has been going on for 3 or 4 years in college football and particularly the Big 12. So teams have found ways to benefit themselves against an opponent. And I think that Iowa State is a well-run organization. I think they're smart coaches and their players play with great effort. I would say that if you watch our teams over the same amount of time, that our guys play with great effort. I would say that most of the time our guys are pretty well coached and in the right spot. And when you have teams like that, I think you have a lot of similarities at the end of the game.
Obviously, last year up there, everybody remembers Tylen's highlight touchdown, but that was a game that the defense really seem to step forward, and we've seen that trend continue. How important, as you look back on that day in Ames, do you feel like it was for the defense and what they've continued to establish in the months since then?
That was a mental lift for our defense. A lot of things that we do in life, not only in football, but everyday life, when you develop confidence and have a little success, then it leads to more enthusiasm, better practices, better everyday preparation. And that was a good game for our defense. And since then, we played pretty well. Overall, our guys have played pretty good football. We beat a good team up there last year with a quarterback that's guys going to play in the NFL. It's tough to beat teams when their quarterback has NFL capability. So it was a good lift for us last year defensively when we played at Iowa State.
Lastly, about the defense, with this long break that you guys have had now, unexpected, obviously, with the Baylor game getting postponed, but having a defense that is able to play as well as you guys have, since that day up in Ames last year, does that give you a little bit less trepidation about a long layoff? I mean, it's not like offensive. I mean, your offense obviously needs to perform on Saturday, but if the timing isn't perfect right away, you have this defense that I assume can just go out and make things happen. Is that, maybe my assumption is wrong, but do you sense that having a defense capable may help you in a situation like this?
Well, I hope you're right. I feel good about our defense. I think they've practiced well. I've continued to say this for a lot of years, that focus and ability to absorb information and have a couple good practices a week is the most important piece of the puzzle for college football. I know it has been here for a long time. Our defense seems to be really focused. I'm sure they're enjoying people telling them how good they're doing. I have also cautioned them about that. But in practice, they seem to continue to run around and be enthusiastic and give really good effort. So as long as we're getting that in practice, from my perspective, that makes me feel good in going into the game on Saturday.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Cliff Brunt from the Associated Press. Go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah, Coach, looking at the numbers, there are some lower scores in the Big 12 this year. You see in West Virginia leads the nation in total defense. You're sixth in total defense, second in scoring defense. Several Big 12 teams ranked very highly statistically defensively. Have defenses finally caught up with the offenses in the Big 12? And if so, what's changed the most?
I think there's some truth to what you said. Defenses have seen what's happened in this league for the last 8 years, and they've rallied and done some things differently, particularly playing coverage guys considerably deeper than they did 4 or 5 years ago. The statistics have changed because of what you're seeing in the other conferences across the country, where people have migrated to those conferences and are running what the country would call Big 12 style offenses now in other conferences, and those numbers are getting run up. And so that's why the defensive statistics have changed some in the last 2 years.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes from Jared Alatorre from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Jared.
Hey, Coach. Good morning.
Good morning.
Kind of going off of what Jenny was saying a little bit earlier, you had to have a little bit of your defense seal the game last year in Ames. Now you got Breece Hall rushing over 500 yards and 8 touchdowns, arguably one of the best running backs in the land. You think you'll be depending on your defense to make big plays again this time around?
Yeah, they're going to have to play good. Iowa State is, in their own world, has been very sound offensively. They don't get out of their box much with what they believe in. They seem to have a system that, in their opinion, is simple enough for them to execute and be sound on game day. So defensively, we have to rally at times. We have to be really good down in the red zone and score zone. They're going to get down in there some. They're good. They understand how to move the ball, and hopefully we can hold them to field goals instead of touchdowns, which could be a big factor in the game.
Thank you, Coach.
Next question comes from Scott Wright from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Scott.
Like Hunter Woodard was a guy we got to talk to the other day, and he talked about finally the game kind of slowing down for him and kind of the nerves calming. What have you seen from him that he's doing well, kind of thrown into a tough situation there on the offensive line?
Well, he's learning in the fire. It's a tough game at the position he plays when you're early in your career. Going into the season, he wasn't getting reps with the ones particularly, getting some limited reps with the twos, and then all of a sudden he became a starter. So he's just trying to catch his breath. He's made strides over the last 2 to 3 weeks just from getting quality reps with the ones. And he continues to develop. His effort's good. His attitude's good. The game is important to him, and his team is important. So he's improved in those areas. He's got a ways to go, but should be a much different player by the end of the season.
And then you mentioned Brock Purdy being an NFL guy. What did you guys know about him 2 years ago when they broke him out there in Stillwater?
We didn't know anything about him. We knew that he was we had him on our radar from a recruiting standpoint. We liked him, but we had Spencer. And so we felt like that he was going to be a good player. And then obviously Iowa State got him. And then when he came in, I mean, we didn't know anything about him at that time. I mean, that was really the first time anybody had seen him. But he's off and running and has had a really good career up at Iowa State.
How hard was that night to try to adjust and prepare or adjust and defend a guy that you don't know anything about?
Well, I mean, there's an issue with it, but it wasn't as much that as it was some of the schemes that they went to with him that obviously they felt that were his strengths. And we hadn't seen any of that on tape. So defensively, we were trying to adjust on the run, and it didn't work out very well for us that day with us trying to figure all that out with the new quarterback and then some of the schemes that we hadn't repped in practice.
Thanks, Mike.
So, Coach, that'll do it for questions. Is there anything maybe that we missed that you wanted to talk about while we've got everybody here?
No, I'm good. Good to see you guys. Look forward to seeing y'all this weekend. Y'all be safe.
All right. Thanks, Coach. We appreciate you taking the time.